everyone, and welcome back to Desert Chunk, my semi-extreme one-chunk Ironman starting in Polnivnich. In the last episode, we continued to go painfully dry for a grimy Lantadyme, took some time off from killing bandits to try to gain enlightenment from Ichlarin by slaughtering his sacred animals instead, managed to get both a Leo random and the elusive grimy Lantadyme within just 5 hours of coming back to the bandit grind, rolled our first new chunk in almost 8 months, went sightseeing at a pyramid, butchered a few more animals, and finally unlocked the bank we so desperately desired by rolling Narda. Full disclosure, I am still in the process of editing the previous episode as of the time of recording this, so I haven't yet had a chance to read any comments, because they don't exist yet, obviously, but I'm sure I'll see them at some point before I finish this episode. I've just been way too eager about my new chunk and couldn't help getting an early start on it. So the first and really only order of business in this chunk is to make money. We have a lot of stuff to buy and not a whole lot of great ways to accumulate wealth very quickly, but I do have a couple things to look into. The first is just going back to the level 57 bandits. They do drop coins fairly commonly at several different quantities and drop rates. The highest amount is 45 at a rate of 1 in 21.33, which oddly is better than the rate of their 30 coin drop, that being 1 in 128. There are the grimy herbs, of course, though as I mentioned in the previous episode, they're not really worth selling. There are also other skilling resources like coal and steel bars, which might be worth trading in, but I'd kind of rather stock them up for future smithing experience. And the same can be said about the runes too. Obviously, I've already got thousands of GP locked up in them, but I'd much rather save them until I can actually use them if possible. What I'm really looking for are the Iron Battle Axe and Steel Axe drops, which sell to the Polnivnich General Store for 100 and 120 GP respectively. The big issue is that their drop rates aren't very agreeable, and we already went a bit dry on them during the previous grind. Now, I'm probably going to need to make more than 100k in this chunk, but we'll just use it as a nice rounded milestone for some quick illustrations. If I were to make that 100k purely from Iron Battle Axes, it would take 1,000 of them to get there. And at a rate of 1 in 64, that means I would have to kill 64,000 bandits on average to get that many. That number would obviously go down a bit due to all the coins and other drops I would get, but I'm not smart enough to know how to do that math, and either way, I'm probably going to have to get a bit more creative. And that brings us to the Desert Goat Horn, which is a guaranteed drop from these goats we unlocked in the chunk north of Polnivnich, and actually I just found out from the wiki that we have another herd just to the west of the Narda Bank, which is super convenient. Now, these horns only sell for 6 coins each, but since they drop 100% of the time, we would only have to kill 16,667 goats to reach that 100k milestone. And I say only in comparison to the ridiculous 64,000 number of bandits from the previous example. But there are also some pretty big issues with this idea too, not the least of which is the fact that we'd have to do a ton of world hopping to maximize our profits, which would also be true of selling the runes for what it's worth, and we wouldn't really be gaining any other resources in the process. I also did learn that goat horn dust is a secondary ingredient for herb lore, specifically for combat potions, so that makes me even less inclined to go and grind out thousands of them just to turn into a very small amount of GP. Oh, look, a random event. So anyway, we're just going to start with the bandits for now. If you guys have any better ideas for money-making methods within my chunks, please let me know, assuming that this episode comes out before I actually finish all the tasks, that is. I also probably shouldn't discount the loot we could get from random events, since I feel like the majority of my cash stack actually came from them, but obviously those are random and thus not reliable. But this is going to be our gear setup to take on the bandits. I might switch out the beekeeper pants for the mime pants actually, but I'm feeling a lot better about taking on the bandits this time around. And one last thing, I am actually going to reset this loot tracker before we start getting kills, just so I can get a better sense of how much money we're actually making. So there we go, no more bandits in the loot tracker now, and well, I guess I'll see you when I have something else to say. So this is the result of our first bandit trip. We got 11 kills, so we're doing pretty well for ourselves nowadays. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot to show for it in terms of monetary value. The only thing that I really want to count towards that monetary value is the 102 coins. Also, before I forget, this XP lamp is going to give us an agility level, so there is level 16 agility. So apparently there is a crashed star that lands in our chunk now. We don't have a pickaxe to mine this. I guess that means that we have a pretty big mining grind on the horizon as soon as we do get a pickaxe. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Don't really often get to see these just out in the wild like this. And the mime legs do indeed look much better with this setup. And this kill brings us to an even 100 bandits killed. It took us about 5 hours from where we left off to get here, so that's about 20 kills per hour. A little bit better than where we were after last episode's Jackal grind. We killed 82 bandits in a similar 5-hour period. Also, just in case you're curious, here are the DPS calcs for my new setup, and you can see that my average damage taken per kill is down to about 13 with all my stats intact. Although kill number 86 was pretty rough. I lost 50 HP to a single bandit, and it was my very first kill of the trip, so yeah, that can still happen. Regardless, here's my custom graphic again to better visualize the loot from this session. And what you'll notice is that we already have 14 out of the 20 drops besides bones and coins, including the grimy dwarfweed and the grimy lantidime, and we're only at a quarter of the drop rate for either of them. I fully expect to complete the drop table for a second time before we even reach the 390.1 drop rate, and maybe even within the next batch of 100 kills. Imagine if we'd had this kind of luck on our first go-around. Probably wouldn't have taken 8 months to roll a new chunk if that had been the case. But let's not dwell too much on the past, even though that's kind of my thing, and let us instead talk about the money. Because, as you can see, we didn't get a whole lot of it. 558 coins in 100 kills, which, of course, we are going to use as a very rough average estimate to do some very janky math. If we go back to our 100k goal, we would need to get 558 coins 180 more times in order to reach 100,000. And given that it took us 100 bandits to get 558 coins, we simply multiply 180 by 100 and, well, 18,000 bandits is certainly better than the 64k from the iron battle axes alone, but still a ridiculous amount. Luckily, the coins, battle axes, steel axes, and even, begrudgingly, potentially the runes, all of these are working in tandem to bring that number of bandits down, hopefully to a manageable level, which I think will ultimately prove to be much better than the Desert Goathorn idea. That said, it's still going to be one hell of a grind, so let's get back to it. Another 100 kills down, and hey, guess which item we're still dry for? That's right, it's the steel axe. I really wish I had been able to keep that one. But at least we seem to have gotten a little bit more raw GP this time around, and we also knocked off a few more items on our way to completing the drop table for a second time, so that's cool, I guess. Okay, and we have a maze random. This is actually really good for me. I want to try to solve this as soon as possible because the rewards from these chests, these little mini chests here that come at the other branches of the maze, I guess you would call them. They're not really going to help me out in terms of monetary value. They're really great for supplies like runes. Of course, it takes a long time to actually harvest them. But the main things that I want come from the chest here, the strange shrine at the center of the maze. This is what'll get me a lot of runes, a lot of ores, things that I could potentially sell for money. So I'm actually really excited to get this one. I wondered how long it would be before I saw this. I had a fear that it might become the next Gravedigger random where we just never gonna find this one until way past the point of us actually needing it, but I guess a maze random is always kind of useful. I don't know. Anyway, we're solving this with just over 60% reward potential, so let's see what we get from it. Hopefully something decent. That looks like it's something kind of decent. A lot of death runes, which will be useful to sell potentially, and I think I am going to sell off these death runes because it'll be a while before I can actually use them for magic. Coal, which we can also potentially sell off, and the steel arrows, I don't know if they're great. 7 each high elk value, so they'll probably sell to the store for like 6 each. It may be better to keep these around and hold on to them for potential training, but if, you know, push comes to shove, worse comes to worst, then we might have to sell these off as well, and it'll be a little bit of money. And here's a level that we haven't seen in a little while. There's 66 hit points and 81 combat from that. And this lamp should get us to level 17 agility. And here's 68 strength. Well, I wasn't expecting this drop, as you can tell by how long it's been sitting on the floor there, but there's that steel axe we were talking about, and we're quite dry for it, of course. I believe this is 1 in 128, and we are more than double the drop rate for it. That being said, it's also the second to last item that we need to complete the drop table again, and we're only at 287 kills, but it would be nice to get some duplicates because, like I said, they sell for 120 coins each, and, well, I want to keep this one, so we are going to keep it. I was initially thinking of putting it straight into the bank so that I don't accidentally sell it, but I might just keep this on me to actually train a bit of woodcutting while I recover my attack step between bandit trips. If nothing else, it'll give me something else to do besides collecting and filling up buckets for a little extra GPO, and we have a random event here. If I can even get to him, can I trap this guy, please? Can I trap him? Why can I not trap him? Thank you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there are these 2 buckets that spawn here in this camel shop, and if I take them over to the well to fill them up, I can sell several of them at a time for 3 coins each to the general store. Really trying to pinch pennies here. I mentioned this briefly back in episode 1 as a potential way to make money early on, but I never actually needed to rely on it since I got 1,000 coins from my very first random event, and then I just continued to get small amounts of coins from other random events here and there. Almost everything that I needed to buy as a chunk task was pretty cheap. I easily could have completed the whole list with just that initial 1,000, but the bucket of water method is what I likely would have done for cash if I hadn't gotten lucky with those random events, so I figured I might as well supplement my income with it now since I'm definitely in need of cash. The nice thing about selling water buckets is that they are already part of the general store's natural stock, as you can see, so I never have to worry about it being too filled up with other people's junk to sell them. And the stock also goes down rather quickly, so I'm pretty much always able to sell them at 3 coins each. But yeah, the steel axe is nice to have because now I can morally cut cacti. I could also have done it with my mithril scimitar, but I decided last video that I wasn't going to if I didn't have the steel axe on me because the mithril scimitar didn't come from my chunks, whereas the steel axe in fact does. So it's just a little bit of extra woodcutting XP on the table, and like I said, something to do other than running buckets to the general store. Oh, and by the way, if we were trying to make 100k purely by selling steel axes, it would take over 106,000 bandits on average to get there. Maybe a bit more with my RNG. And here we are at 300 kills, still 1 drop away from recompleting the drop table, that being the grimy cadentine, but already in far better shape than we were at 391 kills when we were doing this grind the first time around for, you know, the actual chunk tasks, because at that point we were still missing 4 of our rarest drops, and as you can see, there's a grimy lantidime sitting in my inventory right now that we got in this trip, so we're definitely making up for lost time on those. Alright, so episode 4 just went live a little while ago, and one of my commenters mentioned something that I hadn't thought about yet, but now that I have a way to get clean herbs, I was asked whether or not I'm going to keep one in my inventory in case Dr. Jekyll shows up. Also, I just noticed that Zahur is actually a lady and not the he that I said in the previous episode. That was just a result of me having the camera angle way too high up to see the character model, so whoops, my bad. But I had to look at the OSRS wiki page for the Jekyll and Hyde random event to see what my options were, and I don't really have the best ones, to be honest. The bandits don't drop torstals, so I can't get the stamina potions that every other one-chunker seems to love. Not that I even know what I would do with them, personally, but I kept looking around and thought, hey, super restores might be pretty good, considering how low my attack gets. But the problem with that idea is that super restores require a cadentine, which is the only repeat drop that we currently do not have, so that's out, at least for now. But I kept looking and discovered that Harlanders actually give me access to regular restore potions, which I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been getting quite heavily spooned for grimy Harlanders. We ended the previous grind with 2 of them in our inventory and 1 in the bank from our Leo random, and we got 21 out of an expected 17 overall. And that trend has continued on this grind too. We have 6 Harlanders in 302 kills, and at a rate of 1 in 83.6, that's a weird drop rate, we should only have 3 to 4. And, just in case you thought that the stars couldn't align any further, we also happened to get our achievement diary task completed last episode by cleaning one of said Harlanders, so we actually already have one here that we can use. Now, we could also potentially invest in the attack potion variants, with Avanto being required for a super and Terramin being required for a regular, and we do have quite a decent amount of Terramins as well, and rather than just using them to restore my stats, I could use them at the start of the fight for a small DPS boost, as well as to mitigate the stat drops from the wines. And to be honest, I should probably actually do that with these attack potions here, so I'm just gonna take those. But with all of that said, it's time to get back to the question that was actually asked of me. Will I be keeping a clean herb on me in case Dr. Jekyll shows up? And the answer is, Honestly, probably not. I will keep this Harlander on me because why not? It's already clean. But I don't want to spend money chasing potions when it's already difficult to come by. Remember, it takes 200 coins to clean each herb. And if I'm even more honest, it's just not a gameplay mechanic that I feel like I would enjoy all that much. Being paranoid about keeping a clean herb in my inventory just on the random chance that it pays off in what is currently a relatively minor way for me. In the future, I might look into it more, but for right now, I'll probably just do it like 1 or 2 times and just leave it at that. Well, it's been a while since we've seen one of these, but here is level 46 Prayer. And there is kill number 391. We have just surpassed the drop rate of the 2 rarest items that these bandits drop, the Grimy Dwarfweed and the Grimy Lantodime. And it looks like I was wrong. We did not finish the second completion of this drop table before hitting the drop rate for the rarest items. We are still dry for the Grimy Cadentine at 1 in 292.6 as a drop rate, but that's okay. We're still in a much better position than we were the first time around, so I feel still somewhat vindicated in my complaints about the previous grind. But anyway, and well, here's the Grimy Cadentine just 3 kills later, so, you know, didn't take all that long to actually do it. Have a bread roll, okay, sure. I think that's that. And here's another level we haven't seen in a while, largely because I wouldn't let myself train it. There's level 21 woodcutting. We can now use a mithril axe if we had one. So I don't know what's going on, but I just had another Sandwich Lady event, and as you can see in my thing here, my event log, I have had 4 Sandwich Ladies in a row now. I also had one yesterday, and then also one before that yesterday as well. So that's like 6 Sandwich Ladies in the span of I don't know how long, but I have a chocolate bar now, so haven't gotten a stale baguette. I got one chance at it, and it obviously failed. So I don't know why the Sandwich Lady keeps visiting me out here in the desert so often. This is also like the 3rd time she's visited me mid-kill, where I've had to like run around and try to hide behind cacti to try to get her before she despawns, and I can't explain this. It would be amazing if these were all maze randoms that happened right in a row, but they're unfortunately not. So, and here is kill number 500 with a drop of nothing, but it's a nice round milestone, so it also gives me an opportunity to do some more janky napkin math, as you know I like to do. By the way, this is exactly how I played RuneScape as a teenager. I was constantly doing very rough and approximate calculations on just about everything to measure my progress to certain milestones. I'll try not to overload you guys with it, but given that the whole goal of this particular chunk is to make money as efficiently as possible while sacrificing the least amount of resources to do it, I think that these math segments will help all of us visualize this grind a little better, myself included. Alright, so in 500 kills, we have gathered 2,741 GP in raw coin drops. I've also been selling off the iron battle axes, which has netted us another 1k. My 1 extra steel axe sold for an additional 120 GP, and I've actually been selling off my death runes one by one for 99 GP each during my recovery cycles, which, given the 30 shown in the tracker, equates to another 2,970 on top of that, for a total of 6,831 GP made in 500 kills, which again we're going to use as a rough average estimate for our future calculations. Going back to our arbitrary 100k goal, if we had to make it all from scratch using just these drops, we would need to do this whole 500 kill run again about 14 or 15 more times to make that amount, which equates to killing 7,320 more bandits on average, which is a far lower and much more manageable number than relying on any of those drops alone would necessitate, and it's also much better than the Desert Goat Horn idea as well. But it's not going to take us nearly that much to reach the first of our major goals, because for the grand total of 47,500 GP, we can purchase the Rune Chain Body, which is going to be a massive upgrade for us, but I'll talk a little bit more about the Rune Chain Body when we actually get it. For now, let's take a look at the number of kills it would take to earn the 20.5k that we still need under the same conditions as before, and doing the same math for that, we see that it'll take roughly 1,500 more bandits on average to get there. So far, this grind has taken me 23 hours, which gives us another rough estimate of almost 3 more days of playtime to reach that goal. But bear in mind that this isn't factoring in any random events, any useful random events that is, or the buckets of water, or the rest of the death runes that I still have in my inventory, or even the chaos runes that I might end up selling later into the grind. Plus, if we look back at the drop rate graphic, you can see that there is still a little room for my luck to improve with some of our more valuable drops, including the law runes, which I don't really want to sell too many of, but which do sell in the general store for 132 coins each. But I'm going to need to be a bit closer to the end game to figure out how many of my runes I'm willing to let go of, so I'm just going to get back into the grind for now, and I'll see you guys for more janky math when the time comes. And after our very strange run of Sandwich Lady randoms, we now have a maze random, so that's pretty cool. Gonna just do this real quick. Hopefully I get a little bit more reward potential than I did last time. Well, I got kind of screwed with the layout of the doors at the end, so it's not really all that much better. It might even be a little bit worse, but we'll see what we do get. 821 coins, you love to see it. 5 mithril ore, that is great because we can sell that. We have no need of it in the near future, so that can definitely go. Also, the 91 chaos runes does make me feel a bit more inclined to sell some of them off now, so maybe I will take the opportunity to sell some of these to get our last little bit of money for the rune chain body when that time comes. Well, we just got our 2 uncut diamonds back from a Molly random, so I guess letting them go didn't really matter in the end. They came back to us eventually. Not entirely sure I want to sell these off, not because I really want to keep them for anything in particular, but more just because selling them for 120 coins each doesn't seem great. I feel like I'd almost rather just drop them over to my main account or keep them in the bank, so we'll see what I decide to do with that, but yeah, that's cool, I guess. Also, I just realized that it may have sounded like I was scoffing at the idea of getting 120 coins for these diamonds. Well, actually, it would be a little bit less than 120 per diamond because the general store buys them for slightly under the high elk value, but regardless, I know it sounds like I may have been scoffing at that when I was so excited about the 120 coins that I get from the steel axes and the 100 coins that I get from the steel battle axe, from the iron battle axes, excuse me. But my reasoning was relativistic. I meant, 120 coins thereabouts for things that are far more useful than their high elk or general store value, so that's what I was talking about. I don't know if I needed to clarify that. Maybe it's just an autistic thing. I over-explain things that I maybe don't need to, but I've caught myself a couple of times saying things where it doesn't quite have the full context and then wishing later that I was actually able to have given the full context, though it doesn't seem like it has garnered anything negative thus far. But yeah, just covering my bases there, I guess. Okay, so I just sort of came to the realization that I should probably buy out all of these small value items from the Narda shops now rather than later. For one, it'll make it easier for me to do my janky math whenever I get around to that, but also, imagine if the last task I completed in this chunk was buying, like, I don't know, a plain old hammer or something. It would be a very unsatisfying conclusion. So I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and buy out every single item that I can afford, sell back what I probably won't be needing anytime soon, keeping whatever I want to hold on to, and then only having the big ticket items left to worry about. This will likely set me back several thousand GP, unfortunately, but I might be willing to let go of some of my precious chaos runes in order to make up the difference. So we're just going to start buying out all of the stock and checking off tasks. There is a pot. This is a jug. Here is a empty jug pack, some shears, a bucket. The empty bucket pack will take one of those. We'll take a bowl. We'll take a cake tin, some cooked meat, which I can use to heal actually, a tinderbox, a chisel, and a hammer. All checked off. Let me eat this before it becomes irrelevant. It only heals me 3 anyway, so I'll sell back the empty jug pack because I don't need a ton of jugs, and I'll sell back the empty bucket pack because I don't need a ton of buckets. I'll keep this bucket on me because I can actually sell it for GP and Paul Nivnich. Sell back the jug even though it'll probably give me nothing in return, yeah, because I don't need it. I don't need jugs. Cake tin, is it worth selling back? Yeah, I'll sell this back too. I'm not going to be making cakes anytime soon. I'm going to hold on to the bowl for now. I'm going to hold on to the bucket and all this stuff Eventually it'll be useful as far as tools go. How much does the pot sell for? 0, but you know, pots can hold other things rather than water and wine, so probably a little bit more useful for me to keep on hand. Okay, and in the hunter shop, we are going to buy this very expensive box trap pack. That's gonna hurt. Let me sell that right back. Try to get some money for it. Oh, I can't take advantage of pricing when a shop is under stock. That's cool. Well, I can sell it off now, so give me my money right back. I don't know how much I got back, 2K or something along those lines. I don't know. Bird snare pack. I'm gonna buy it, and then I'm gonna sell it back because I'm probably only gonna need one bird snare to start with. So rabbit snare. Don't think there are any rabbits around, but there's the snare. Okay, and how much do you sell back for? 10 coins. Sure, I'll take it. Unlit torch. This might be useful, and it only costs 4 coins, so I'll buy it, and I'll probably end up keeping that. Teasing stick. I don't think there's anything I can tease around here. Buys for 60, sells for 36. I'll take it. Box trap 38. Like I said, I don't think there's anything I can actually catch in a box trap, so eventually when that stock goes up, I'm going to sell it. Bird snare. Okay, now this is something that I am going to keep because we do have birds very close to here that we can catch at level 5 hunter, so I'll buy one of them. They're only, what, 6 coins? So that's not too bad. Let me sell back this box trap right here. Noose wand, only 4 coins. I'm not sure exactly what it's used for. I don't think I have a use for it right now, but it's so cheap and sells back for half the price, so I might as well just keep it. A magic box, again, something I don't currently need, I don't think, but I'll buy it and I'll sell it back for the scam price that it's costing me. Butterfly jar only costs 1 coin. We're gonna get that and we're just gonna keep it. And a butterfly net for 24 coins. If we get our hunter high enough, we might eventually be able to catch implings with this butterfly net. There are some impling spawns that I've seen around Palnivnic, so we'll keep our hands on these things, sell back the magic box. Unfortunately, we're down, what, like 2,300 coins? Not terrible, but everything, you know, checked off the list except for those big ticket items, so I would call that a bit of a worthy sacrifice in my book. And as it turns out, I actually forgot one shop, the chalk ice seller, so we'll spend a little bit more GP down the drain here to get 1 chalk ice and 1 chocolate bar. Do they sell back for anything? 20 coins? Yeah, I'll sell that back. Can't do it right now. This sells back for 6 coins. Maybe I can get some money for the chocolate that I have in my bank currently. I'll sell that, and you give me 19 coins. Okay, that's fine. Well, here is our Jekyll event finally, so I think, do I just use this Harlander on him and nothing interesting happens? Okay. He says he can do with a Harlander, so here you are. There's our restore potion. We'll see if I decide to keep it and use it. I might just put it in the bank, save it for a rainy day, who knows? Or maybe I'll just use it up on my next couple of trips, just to speed up the progress. But yeah, we have a restore, that's cool. And here's level 22 wood cutting, just from cutting these Caridian cacti, mind you. All of those levels purely from the cacti, which don't even always give me water, so that 10 XP drop that I just got, not very common actually. I just got 4 Grimy Snapdragon as a reward for a Prison Pete random. What? Okay. How much does it sell for? Not much according to its high elk value. Not really useful to the progression of the account at this time, but I guess that's pretty cool. That must be super rare. Okay, so it's not super rare. I had a look on the wiki and it's about a 1 in 7 drop rate, and apparently this is one of the few items that has been confirmed by a Jagex moderator, so that's interesting, but yeah, pretty cool anyway, so I guess we'll hold on to these in the bank or something. And there's level 23 fishing from an Evil Bob fishing random. And here is a big level 70 strength coming in, the first skill on the account to reach that level 70 threshold. A whole bunch of stuff that we unlocked that we are very far away from being able to use, but a pretty awesome milestone nonetheless. What a time to be alive, right guys? And we just finished off our zombie outfit from the Leo random here. As you can see, all checked off. The only thing we have left before we can start getting XP lamps, I believe, are the emotes, so that's cool, I guess. Took you long enough, Leo. And here's another big level that's 67 hit points. Well, I thought I was recording the 1000th kill of these bandits. As you can see up here in the top right corner of the screen, it didn't register because I need to buy a new mouse because my left click button is double clicking and I hate it, and it probably double clicked on my recording. That's why I didn't record record. So yeah, anyway, it was nature runes. We got 2 nature runes as our final 1000 kill drop. We got some bones. We'll bury the bones. That was a bit anticlimactic. I probably should have checked to make sure that the recording was actually going, knowing about this issue, but alas, we did not capture the moment. Anyway, there's 1,000 kills on the screen. You can see it right there. It looks like we got a pretty solid amount of everything, but I'm going to move over now to our custom graphic to really dissect this drop table. As with the previous grind, we are still doing better than the drop rate for both chaos runes and death runes, though only slightly. We were a lot further ahead on chaos runes coming out of the last grind, but as long as we're still somewhat spooning them, I'm alright, because these are the only 2 kinds of runes that I am actually willing to sell. As for the other runes, you can see that we've actually caught up a bit on law runes, going right on drop rate this time around. We were way behind on them last time, and the nature's not really looking so great this time, but you know what is? These cosmic runes, let's just say I have my doubts about the accuracy of the cosmic rune drop rate on the wiki page, just a little bit. Anyway, moving on from the runes, you can see that we are at 39 out of an expected 39 steel bars, right on drop rate, which, even though I'm not planning on selling these, is still a little bit disappointing compared to the previous grind where we were getting 1 every 21 kills approximately, and we couldn't keep any of them. Thanks, Leo. But we are in the green for coal, which is good because I might sell that at some point. The iron battle axes are treating us pretty well. They're actually in the green this grind, but we're still not quite there yet with steel axes. Kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I do also just want to take a quick look at the herbs, even though, as I've said multiple times before, they're not really worth selling. But we do still have Guams in the green and Marintils falling into the orange like before. Cad and Tines managed to claw their way back from being the last drop we needed to recomplete the drop table a second time to now being double its expected drop rate, so that's cool. Dwarf Weeds are still flexing on the Lantidimes, though at least we actually have multiples of both of them this time. And the real story here, I think, is that of the Grimy Horrorlanders. We are so moist for them. The wiki lists their drop rate at 1 in 83.6, but my drop rate for them across both grinds is about 1 in 63.7. Absolutely wild. But alright, let's actually talk about what this all means in terms of the monetary value going towards our current grind. We earned 6,043 GP in raw coin drops, so better than the 558 GP we got in the first 100 kills would have suggested. Again, I'm too stupid to figure out whether or not we're actually doing well with the coin drops, since they have multiple different quantities and drop rates, but hopefully we're doing alright. We are going better than the drop rate for most of the items that we have been selling, so that luck may not continue as long as it has, but again, this is just rough, janky napkin math, so it should be good enough for a few approximations. On top of the raw coins, we have also received 48 death runes, which I have been selling off one at a time for 99 GP each, in addition to all the death runes that we had stocked up from the maze randoms and the previous grinds. I am saving a few of them, around 60 I think will be good enough going forward, hopefully. But based on the 48 that we have in the tracker, that's a total of 4,752 GP. The 19 iron battle axes at 100 coins each netted us 1.9k. The steel axes would have given us an extra 720 GP if I had sold the one in my inventory, but we're going to be selling all the ones we get in the next 1,000 kills, so we'll just add 720 to the total. And we haven't sold any of them yet, but these coal drops sell for 24 coins each, which honestly isn't a lot, but it's an extra 816 GP to add onto our average total, which over the long run will definitely shave off a number of kills. And thus our grand total is a somewhat respectable 14,231 GP. But before I ramble on about our grand total and how it relates to our future chunk goals, there is one that I would actually like to get out of the way right now. With roughly 37.2k in my inventory and some coal and other miscellaneous things in my bank to sell, I'm only about 10k away from being able to purchase the rune chain body from Sedu. Chaos runes sell to the general store for 49 GP each, going down by 1 for each rune sold. By the 5th rune, I'm getting 45 GP per, so if I sell them 5 at a time, I'm averaging 47 GP each, which I'm okay with. I'm going to sell 210 of my chaos runes this way, which will get me 9,870 GP. That same amount would take me between 201 and 202 runes sold 1 by 1 at 49 GP each, which would only save me about 8 or 9 runes, whereas I could just hop to 42 different worlds and save a bunch of time instead. So I've got my coal, a bunch of it that we got from the random event earlier as well, I've got my runes, and I've got this gold bar from Captain Arnov, and I'll just get on with selling these and see you when we're about to get the chain body. Alright, and here we are back at Sedu with our 47.5k, which took 10 fewer chaos runes than I thought I'd need to get here, probably because of all the coal I had. I still have 10 of those, which I'll probably sell off slowly during my recovery periods. You know, the most tedious part of this grind was actually finding a world where the general store wasn't completely filled up with junk. There's like a constant rotating cast of accounts that just cycle through all the worlds, and you kind of have to get lucky. I don't know if these are bots, or gold farmers, or regular players, a mix of both. It is suspicious to me that most of the loot they sell looks the same from world to world, so it's almost like they're getting it from the same place. I don't know. Anyway, let us purchase the rune chain body from Sedu. You can see my double clicking happening right here in the chat box. How annoying. Really need to get this mouse replaced soon. And you just saw another instance of it there. But regardless, let's put it on, mark off 3 more of our tasks, and now that we have the first of our really expensive items, I think it's time to go over my master plan for the rest of this chunk. Assuming that the bandits are indeed my best way to make money, the goal is to make those trips as efficient as possible, which means getting my armor upgrades as quickly as possible. Luckily, the rune chain body is not only the cheapest of the rune armor pieces sold by Sedu, but it also actually reduces my average damage taken per kill slightly more than the leg armor would, and I've gone ahead and put those 2 setups into the DPS calc to show you the comparison. But the idea here is that less damage means more kills with less frequent healing, and thus getting more drops more quickly, and more drops equals more money, and less frequent healing also means shorter recovery times, which again equals more kills and thus more money. It should come as no surprise then that my next goal will be to obtain the rune leg armor for 60,800 GP, and I'm actually going to be starting with the rune plate skirt because my plan is to sell it back at the end of the grind to help finance the rune plate legs, which is what I want to be leaving this chunk with. And this is just an aesthetic preference, they both give the same defensive stats, although the plate skirt is slightly lighter, which will actually help with all the running around we'll be doing on this grind. But the plate skirt only sells back for 41.6k, plus I still have to buy that magic imp box pack for 72k, but I'm not going to keep that either, and I can get 42k back from it when I immediately turn around and sell it after crossing off the task. Now, the combined funds from reselling both of those items will easily let me afford my last item, the rune plate legs, but it'll be way more than I need to finish the chunk, and my money-making methods are painfully slow, so I'd rather not waste any extra time. So, how am I going to do that? Well, if I accumulate 49,200 GP in cash by the time I'm ready to trade in my plate skirt, that'll bring me up to 90,800. I'd then buy the imp box pack for 72k, leaving me with 18,800 behind. But, of course, once I sell back the pack for 42k, that'll put me right at the 60,800 GP I need to get the plate legs. And in case that was hard to follow, it was a little tricky for me to work out, to be honest, we're going to need 60,800 GP for the plate skirt, in addition to the 49,200 required after that for all the trade-ins, which means that we will need to make an additional 110,000 gold pieces in this chunk. Oh dear. So back to that janky math I promised earlier, if we take our 1000 kill average of 14,231 GP, it will take us approximately 7,700 more bandits on average to get enough money to complete the chunk. However, if I were to commit myself to sacrificing 200 Chaos Runes every 1,000 kills, that would be an extra 9.4k on top of our grand total, bringing it up to 23,631, which is a fair bit better, bringing our number of bandits down to around 4.6k instead. And that's still a whole heck of a lot, but hey, at least the rune plate skirt is only about 2.5k bandits away if I do that, and we've already almost come that far with killing that many between these 2 grinds, so, yeah. So, with all of that said, I hope that you will not begrudge me if I end the episode here. Between the 500 kill segment and the 1000 kill segment, it took me 19 hours to get here, on top of the 23 hours that it took to get the first 500 kills, so hopefully it'll speed up a bit now that I have the rune chain body. But it's clear that I have a lot more grinding to do, and I don't want this episode to get too long, especially with all of the napkin math and insane ramblings. Plus, my clips for this episode are all over the place in my folder, so I'd rather just just wrap it up here and now before it gets too out of hand. I think we made a lot of progress, even if we only got to check off a few tasks. I do plan to complete this chunk in the next episode, however long that takes, and then we'll roll some new chunks. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you as always for being generous with your time, and take care, everyone. In the future, I might look into it more, but for right now, I'll probably just do it like 1 or 2 times and just leave it at that.